Sup guys, it's Alex here and welcome to I guess this is technically the November 26th Bracketology, but I'm making this video on November 29th on the Monday after it came out. I had a crazy weekend to where I was just super busy. Went to the UK U of L football game where my UK Wildcats absolutely destroyed U of L, which was fun to see. But then on Sunday I went to the Colts Buccaneers game as a Colts fan. Kind of blew that game out of the water. Had a chance to win 31-14 at one point, but completely screwed everything up in the second half. But that's another story for another day. Today we are here to talk about college basketball and this 2022 NCAA tournament bracketology. And man, there were some crazy results from this weekend. Duke took down Gonzaga in a really fantastic game. I was only able to catch probably about the final 5 or 6 minutes, but I've watched some highlights from it, and man, both teams look really good. Duke super impressed me right there. Then a couple of other things happened throughout the course of the week, like Michigan dropping another game to Arizona, so now they've lost 2 so far to, I think, Seton Hall and Arizona, and then just other crazy things that have happened throughout the week that I'll probably mention here whenever I take a look here at the bracket. But man, I am so freaking excited. College basketball is getting back up and running. Most of the Thanksgiving weekend tournaments are now over, like the Battle for Atlantis. You got the Bahamas stuff, the Maui Invitational, the NIT season tip-off, all that fun stuff. So let's go ahead and take a look here at the bracket watch. Top overall seed. Remember, this is from Friday, so this will probably change to Duke, I'll say, because Duke has now beaten Kentucky and Gonzaga, 2 top 10 teams whenever the AP poll comes out today, because Kentucky was tied for 10th in last week's poll and then haven't lost. I'm assuming they'll probably be top 10. First team out is Louisville, but then they beat Maryland over the course of the weekend. I think it was on Friday, may have been on Saturday morning. They beat Maryland and Mississippi State, so they should be in the tournament, I would think. And then the last team in currently is Washington State, though. I mean, I don't think they've lost or whatever, but we'll kind of see what happens. Last 4 byes are Wisconsin, Utah State, San Diego State, and Mississippi State. Last 4 in are St. Mary's, Oregon, Oklahoma, and Washington State. And I mean, Oregon has looked awful. They've been getting beat by like 30 in 2 straight games. Is the BYU. Now, I don't remember who they just lost to, but by like 30, but I remember seeing that it was a crazy loss. I'm not sure what happened there, just brain fart or whatever. First 4 out are Louisville, UCF, Virginia, and St. John's. And then the next 4 out are San Francisco as an at-large team. They're putting together a good tournament resume so far. Providence, Cincinnati, who took a bad loss at home. I don't remember who it was to. I want to say it was like Drexel or somebody that they shouldn't have lost to. And then Wichita State. So taking a look here at the bracket, we now have 2 new teams to the 1 line. We have Duke, who has now beaten Gonzaga, so they'll probably move up because they're currently the number 4 seed, or 4th number 1, whatever you want to call it. And then Purdue over there in the Midwest Regional in Chicago, that team is looking really good. I'm super excited to see what Purdue does throughout the course of the season. They have a strong roster, and Matt Painter's doing a great job with that program. And just kind of taking a look here at the regional movements. Up here in the top left, the West region, we have Texas Tech down to an 8, North Carolina down to a 9, Florida up to a 5 after a great win over Ohio State. It was like a buzzer beater to beat them. Arizona up to a 4 after I already mentioned they beat Michigan. Ohio State down to a 6 after that Florida loss. BYU up to a 7, Memphis up to a 2. Then over in the South Regional, we have LSU up to an 8, Xavier down to a 9, Michigan State up to a 5. They're getting battle tested right now. I'm excited to see what happens with that team. They're kind of one of my sleeper teams. They'll probably, if they can hang around like the 5 or 6 line, I think that they can make some noise in the actual NCAA tournament. South Dakota State up to the 12, St. Bonaventure up to a 4, though they did lose after after the bracketology came out, so they'll probably be like a 6 in the new one. Then we have Florida State up to a 6, Kentucky up to a 3, Utah State new to the field as a 10, UCLA down to a 2 after losing in a great game to Gonzaga, which I haven't mentioned yet. That UCLA-Gonzaga game was pretty good too. Gonzaga just kind of handled UCLA throughout. UCLA had some flashes, but they just couldn't make it happen like they did last year in the tournament. And Liberty down to a 15. Then over there, do we have 2 Chicago ones? I don't know what I was saying there, but here in this Midwest one, we have Colorado State up to a 9, Connecticut up to a 5, Oregon down to the playing game there as a 12 seed, USC down to a 6, Mississippi State down to an 11, Houston down to a 3, Marquette, one of my favorite teams, as I mentioned in the last bracketology, they are now up to a 7, Baylor up to a 2, and then over there in the East Regional, as I mentioned, Duke up to a 1 line, Seton Hall up to an 8. Maryland down to a 9. Maryland is a team that I'm just not behind right now. They had lost at, I think it was at home to George Mason. Then they only beat Hofstra by 2, and then they just lost to Louisville, as I mentioned earlier. So that team is kind of in shambles currently. Alabama down to a 5. They got upset by Iona, which was a crazy loss. Rick Pitino, that was another game that happened that I hadn't mentioned yet. Iona beat number 10 Alabama I think it was on Thanksgiving too. That was a crazy loss. Michigan down to a 4, I've already mentioned them. Iona up to a 13, as I mentioned, they just beat Alabama. Then Illinois down to a 6. Oakland new to the field as a 14. Auburn down to a 7. Wisconsin new to the field as a 10. And then Vermont down to a 15. So if you guys have been watching my videos, which I mean most of these people who watch my videos just watch it all the time or whatever, don't get too many new eyes on the product. But every time I do these bracketology videos, I create an Excel bracket and then run through the brackets based on my predictions for the tournament based off of this bracketology, which changes every single time I make it. I have like a new champion or whatever, but I like to have fun while I do it too. So there'll be some fun upsets in here that may or may not happen in the actual tournament, but it's just kind of fun to play around here. It's in November right now. We're still a month away from conference play, so we'll see what happens with that. But starting over here in the top left regional, we're obviously going to have Gonzaga moving on past Wagner. North Carolina, I think, will get the first upset of the tournament here with Hubert Davis. They are getting battle tested right now. I think this team will be a lot better once the ACC play rolls around. I think they'll probably finish number 2 in the conference behind Duke. And then we're going to have Florida here moving on past Belmont. Arizona, I think, can handle Buffalo. Then we are going to have Ohio State here moving on past the winner of St. Mary's and Washington State, which I think would be St. Mary's at this point. Arkansas will beat Weber State. Then we are going to have BYU beating West Virginia there. BYU is stringing together some solid performances. Then Memphis will beat Colgate. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we are going to have Gonzaga here moving on past North Carolina. Florida, I think, can pull off the 5/4 slight upset over Arizona. Ohio State, I am going to pick to beat Arkansas there. Arkansas hasn't really been putting together solid performances. I saw they were struggling in the last game that they played. I can't remember if they actually lost or not, but I think Ohio State can upset them, and you guys know I'm not the biggest Ohio State fan when it comes to college basketball. They did lose to Xavier, but I like them in that matchup. They're 6/3 as an upset pick. Then Memphis, I think, can handle BYU. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, we're going to have Gonzaga moving on past Florida. If I can click that button, there we go. Then we are going to have Memphis with Penny Hardaway here moving on to the Elite Eight as well, but then they will fall to Gonzaga. I don't think that one's honestly going to be very close. Money Bates will be one of those kind of players like Cade Cunningham to where he's just going to take over throughout the course of the season for a specific team, but I think Gonzaga is just a better overall team, and they're going to end up winning. So then we'll go over here to the, I think this is the South Regional in San Antonio. Kansas is going to beat Northeastern. Then I think that Xavier will pull off another 9/8 over LSU. Michigan State will beat South Dakota State. Then we are going to go with an upset pick here with New Mexico State 13/4 over St. Bonaventure. As I just mentioned, St. Bonaventure just lost, so why not have fun with it? St. Bonaventure, I think, will be a fun team in the actual NCAA tournament, but we're just having fun here. We'll go with a 13/4. Loyola Chicago, going with another upset pick, 11/6 there. They are getting battle tested. I think they were in the battle for Atlantis. They beat Arizona State. They barely lost to Michigan State, and then they gave Auburn a lot to handle, but Auburn kind of put them away late. That team is looking good in their first year after Porter Moser left. Then Kentucky's going to beat Georgia State. Indiana, I think, can beat Utah State, and then UCLA will beat Liberty. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we got Kansas moving on past Xavier. Michigan State here moving on past New Mexico State. Kentucky, I think, can beat Loyola Chicago, and then UCLA will beat Indiana in battle of two historic college basketball programs there. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, we are going to have Kansas here moving on past Michigan State in a rematch of their Champions Classic game, which was a pretty good game. Michigan State should be better by that time, but I think Kansas will be able to beat Michigan State. Then a rematch here of the Sweet 16. Actually, I think it was Elite Eight between Kentucky and UCLA from back in 2017. The old De'Aaron Fox game out by Alonzo Ball. That game that was absolutely crazy. Kentucky, I do think, will lose to UCLA. As much as I hate to say it right now, I do think that Johnny Juzang and UCLA is a better team at the current moment. But then, you know what? I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with UCLA here, moving on past Kansas. That was another game I hadn't mentioned up until now. We had, there's one of my coworkers messaging me, but UCLA, or no, it was Kansas that ended up losing to Dayton on that buzzer beater. I can't believe I forgot to mention it up until now. Kansas lost on a buzzer beater to Dayton, but I think that UCLA is going to advance to the Final Four there as a 2 seed there. I'll go ahead and send that back over there. Then Purdue We'll move on past the winner of Yale and Nicholls State here to move on to the second round. Then we're going to have Virginia Tech moving on past Colorado State. And this Oregon-Oklahoma, that'll be a crazy game for college football. Well, maybe not now that Lincoln Riley just left Oklahoma. But I think that Connecticut will beat the winner of Oregon and Oklahoma, which would probably be Oklahoma, I would say. Tennessee will beat Chattanooga. USC will beat Mississippi State. And then we got Houston moving on past UC Irvine. Then Marquette will beat Iowa, and then Baylor will beat Campbell. So no upsets here in this regional in the first round. Sometimes that happens. Purdue, I think, will beat Virginia Tech. Then we are going to have Connecticut and another 5/4 over Tennessee. I think that they can make that one happen. Then we're going to have USC losing to Houston. I think as the 3 seed, Houston will move on there. And then why not have some fun here? Why not have Marquette beat the reigning national champions there in Baylor? They're just not... I mean, Baylor obviously is a 2 seed for a reason, but I haven't really watched any of their games so far, and I have seen a couple of Marquette's, and why not just have fun with it? It's the November bracketology. Marquette upsetting Baylor as the 2 seed there. So then for a spot in the Elite Eight, we are going to have Purdue, though, moving on past Connecticut. Then I think that Marquette can beat Houston, pulling off another upset there, 7/3, but then they will fall to Purdue. As much as I want to pick Marquette moving on there, I do have to go with Purdue moving to the Final Four. So in this final regional over here, Duke versus the winner of that playing game. Obviously, it's not going to matter. Duke's going to win that. Seton Hall will beat Maryland. Then I think that Alabama will beat UAB, but then I'm going to go with Iona. You guys know where I'm going with this. Iona beating Michigan. Michigan, I think, can obviously beat Iona in the NCAA tournament, but Michigan's been faltering at a little bit lately. Iona beat Alabama, setting up a rematch there. We'll get to it here in a second. San Diego State, I think, can pull off the upset there over Illinois so far. Texas will be able to beat Oakland. Texas is in the same 3 line as they were against Abilene Christian last year, which I think is funny. Auburn, I think, can beat Wisconsin, and then Villanova will beat Vermont. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we got Duke here advancing on past Seton Hall. Then we are going to have Iona as the 13th seed upsetting Alabama because we're just having fun here. This happened in real life, so we know that it can happen. 13/5, Iona to the Sweet 16 as a 13th seed. Then we're going to have Texas here moving on past San Diego State. Texas is looking very solid. Then we're going to have Villanova moving past Auburn. Duke, I think, will be able to beat Iona here, obviously. And then we're going to have Texas pulling off the 3/2 over Villanova. Texas has been looking very solid recently. I think that they can make the Elite Eight. But then they will fall to Duke for a spot in the Final Four. Duke's going to move on past Texas, which sets up a rematch here in the Final Four of Gonzaga and Duke. And I got to go with the team that just ended up winning here. I am going to go with Duke moving on past Gonzaga, which sets up UCLA and Purdue. Why not have some fun? Why not go with Purdue winning there? I don't think I've had... Actually, I know I haven't had them in the national championship game. I mean, I haven't had Duke in the national championship game either before this. Duke versus Purdue. What a national championship game. And why not go with... I mean, I really want to go with the Boilermakers there. But Duke has been putting together a solid resume so far this season with wins over Kentucky and Gonzaga. I got to go with the Duke Blue Devils winning the national championship in Coach K's last season. What a story. Duke wins the national championship in this bracketology. So, I know this is a bit of a long video, but if you guys have watched to the end, thank you guys for watching. Really hope you enjoyed it. And I will see, or let me know your own comments and thoughts and predictions and all that, and thoughts about the crazy Thanksgiving week of college basketball. Feast week, if you want to call it that. That's what ESPN does. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all later.